I'm talking to Bernie Eisenberg. He was also on the emergency delegation to Chiapas. Bernie, you visited Acteal, the scene of the massacre. Can you tell us what that was like?
Yes, our delegation visited Acteal after we had visited the refugee camp at Polo, which was quite an experience in itself. Just let me mention before I talk about Acteal that the kids involved, the thing that I noticed most was that there was a continuous coughing as we were presenting our goods to the folks there. These kids are really sick and hungry, so we need to keep that in mind. But let me talk about an incident that occurred at Acteal.
Yes.
We saw the church, and I have to say that this is just basically an inconsequential community. I mean, it's not substantial. The church is on a small plateau. There are houses in the mountainsides, in the valleys all around. Why they chose Acteal has got to be some kind of political reason that the paramilitaries attacked these people. What happened while we were there was that we were told that the judicial police had come in to interrogate the town leadership, and they had actually taken away 7 people. This happened out of our sight, and we were asked by the town who was left at the town to please follow the PGR, that's the judicial police, to the place at which they had taken these persons because they were afraid for their safety. Pick up from there. Okay, so what we did then was we piled into our vehicle and took a very bumpy secondary road we had 2 villagers with us who were directing us, and for about a half an hour we were bumping along, and we finally found this village that they said that the people had been taken to. Now the village was totally occupied by the army. We learned that it was basically a pre-dominated village, that is the ruling party, that this was an area that the paramilitaries were enlisted from, and that the army felt very safe in this village. We wondered, whether or not what we could do once we got there.
Yeah.
So we spoke with, and the army, of course, wondered what we were doing there. So they came up to meet us, and there was some conversation going on with our Mexican host, who spoke with them about what had just occurred, and confirmed that there were people taken from Acteal that were in the village now. And the reason they were taken was because they were to identify presumed paramilitary persons who had been part of the massacre team. But the people, we learned later, didn't want to. This was a very interesting situation. So the army told them that they would be dressed in paramilitary garb so that they wouldn't be recognized.
No, wait a minute. These were people from where?
From Acteal.
And they were going to this priest community.
That,
how far away?
Half an hour by dirt road. Now, this is illegal to dress people up in uniforms like that. What had happened was that there were some lawyers from some organization that had been in Acteal and had been continuously telling the folks that it is illegal to dress up in military uniforms or any kind of uniform like that and disguise yourself. As soon as the lawyers left Acteal, the PGR came in and took these people and made that proposal that they dress them up in uniforms.
And these were people that they wanted to question about the events in Acteal?
They were in the process of, they say, investigating the massacre.
Yeah.
And in investigating the massacre, what they were really doing was intimidating the whole community.
Yeah,
They would come in at all hours. They would take the leadership away. They took a man named Lorenzo, who was the leader of the village, and they took him away for 1 day. And they came back the next day and said, we lost your answers, and so we need you again. And they took him away for another 3 hours that very day that we arrived. So basically, it's a process of intimidation and harassment.
And you found yourselves in sort of an ad hoc accompaniment role, right?
That's right. We didn't know whether we could really do anything for the people who had been taken.
Yeah.
It turned out that Our Mexican host decided that it looked unsafe after consulting,
I see.
after talking with the Army person. The Army apparently invited us down, but this was a pre-village infested with Army. We didn't know what would happen. He considered it unsafe, and so he left. At least we had made it known that we knew those people were there.
Yeah.
Now, the upshot of this whole thing is that it turned out that not 7 people were taken, but really only 2 people were taken, which just goes to show that even in the community of interest in Acteal, rumors spread very quickly, and that you have to be very careful about what you repeat. So even the local people themselves were unaware that only 2 people were taken. But it was 2 people. It was 2 people who were massacre survivors, and that's why they were taken. They went voluntarily. I can't say they were taken. Why they went voluntarily at this point, I don't know. Maybe they were threatened. But we do know
Could
that
they
they went.
hope for justice?
I don't think so. I think this was a show. I think it was a show. And what happened ultimately was that probably about an hour after we left the site, they did return. So I think that perhaps we did help a bit by being there. The Army knew we were there. That's why it's so important for the world to know the truth about what's happening down there.
Okay, thanks a lot, Bernie. We're going to be hearing the program soon.